We now have our morning scripture, which I believe 2 people are reading. You get twice as much for your money today, 2 people reading our scripture. Thank you.
I'm reading from the book of Matthew, chapter 8, verses 1 to 13. When Jesus came down from the mountainside, large crowds followed him. A man with leprosy came and knelt before him and said, "Lord, if you are willing, you can make me clean." Jesus reached out his hand and touched the man. "I am willing," he said. "Be clean." Immediately he was cleaned of his leprosy. Then Jesus said to him, "See that you don't tell anyone, but go show yourself to the priest and offer the gift Moses commanded as a testimony to them." When Jesus had entered Capernaum, a centurion came to him asking for help. "Lord," he said, "my servant lies at home paralyzed, suffering terribly." Jesus said to him, "Shall I come and heal him?" The centurion replied, "Lord, I do not deserve to have you come under my roof, but just say the word and my servant will be healed. For I myself am a man under authority, with soldiers under me. I tell this one, 'Go,' and he comes." And he goes. "And that one, 'Come,' and he comes. I said to my servant, 'Do this,' and he does it." When Jesus heard this, he was amazed and said to those following him, "Truly, I tell you, I have not found anyone in Israel with such great faith. I say to you that many will come from the east and the west and will take their places at the feast with Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob in the kingdom of heaven. But the subjects of the kingdom will be thrown outside into the darkness, where there will be weeping and gnashing of teeth." Then Jesus said to the centurion, "Go, let it be done just as you believed it would." And his servant was healed at that moment. These are the words of the Lord. Thanks be to God.
I'm reading from Mark 4, verses 36 to 41. Leaving the crowd behind, they took him along, just as he was in the boat. There were also other boats with him. A furious squall came up, and the waves broke over the boat, so that it was nearly swamped. Jesus was in the stern, sleeping on a cushion. The disciples woke him up and said to him, "Teacher, don't you care if we drown?" He got up, rebuked the wind, and said to the waves, "Quiet, be still." Then the wind died down, and it was completely calm. He said to his disciples, "Why are you so afraid? Do you still have no faith?" They were terrified and asked each other, "Who is this? Even the wind and the waves obey him." Amen.
Those scriptures are amazing. We hear that Jesus, immediately before them, healed a leper, a disease that could not be healed by anybody mortal. And then the centurion in the crowd listening to him. And what he said was just amazing. This man stood in the crowd with all the Jewish and other people around him. Centurions were not the most popular people in the world, in that world. They were part of a regime that had enslaved the Israelites, and they were probably pretty much hated, I should think. But this man was different. He said, he listened to Jesus and was obviously stirred in his soul and his heart. And eventually, he must have plucked up the courage to say to Christ, to ask for help. 100% was required of him by the Roman Empire. There was no room for debate, there was no room for discussion. He was told to do something and he did it. And he told his soldiers underneath him to do something and they did it. The penalty was too great to avoid, to risk it. And he said to Christ, just say the word, i.e., give the order. Not even we Christians would dare to say to Jesus, say it, and it will be done. But he did. And what Christ said to him was amazing. Again, he hadn't seen that sort of faith in the whole of his life, in his existence in that nation. I wonder what the crowd reaction was when the centurion may have pushed his way forward, as one would if you were a centurion, and then humbly spoke to Christ. They were probably pretty surprised as well. There's another miracle in itself. Jesus' response was so fantastic. Go, your servant will be healed even as you speak. And then contrast that scripture with the disciples in the boat, Jesus' own disciples, who had walked and talked and shared with him. And Jesus asleep in the stern of the boat on a cushion. Do you know, I often wonder, was he really asleep? Even he might not find it easy to sleep in a storm on the sea. I suspect, he was testing their faith. And they failed. He was testing them to see if they had enough faith in him. And on that occasion, they did not. But I suppose he was using that as a test of their faith and teaching them a good lesson. I ask now, does God use our problems to test our faith? Does he use our problems to develop our faith? I shall say more on that later. As I was thinking about this, I came across this article which was based on that story of Jesus in the boat with the disciples. And this person says, sometimes my inner world is a wind-tossed sea. Often I have been the disciples clinging to the side of the boat in fear. When an anxiety overwhelms me, I forget the sleeping Jesus in my own being. I neglect to trust his presence or call on his name. Jesus' proclamation, a promise, a plea, peace, be still. Gradually in me, the winds and the problems begin to ease and the waves slow to a gentler rhythm. In the Spirit's presence, rest for a time in calm. This text has provided me comfort, but it also issues a challenge. Why are you afraid? Do you still have little faith? Ask Christ again and again into the circumstances of our lives. Still in our storms we cling to our boats in fear. Still he comes and calms them, proclaiming peace. Even greater is the challenge to share the peace of Jesus amid the storms we encounter in our relationships, in our communities. Often, one calm presence in a difficult time can be enough to bring needed ease. Consider those people in your lives who have been an anchor when the seas became too choppy to navigate alone. Sometimes the storms are within us. Sometimes the storms are around us. Wherever you encounter your storms, may you find renewed faith in the one who proclaims peace and brings calm amid our doubts and fears. We're now going to have another song, and I'm full of confidence that I don't have to start this one either. Thank you. Shall we stand?